Romans 8 verses 18 to 22. When glory outweighs the groaning. Paul has just unveiled the intimate reality of our adoption as sons and daughters of God, a truth so rich with assurance that it transforms not only how we relate to God, but how we walk through suffering. Now, in Romans 8 verses 18 to 22, he calls us to lift our eyes to the horizon of eternity and see our afflictions through the lens of future glory. With language both poetic and pastoral, Paul teaches us that our present suffering cannot silence the song of future hope, for it is not empty agony, it is labor pain. And all of creation is groaning with us, longing for the day when glory will shatter the silence of our sorrow. In Romans 8 verses 18 to 22, Paul teaches that Christian suffering is purposeful, creation's groaning is hopeful, and future glory is incomparable, each held together in the sovereign plan of redemption that unites the children of God with the liberation of all creation. First, Christian suffering is purposeful, verse 18. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. The Greek verb, logizomai, rendered I consider, does not describe a fleeting opinion but a deliberate, reasoned conclusion, a conviction formed by weighing evidence. Paul is not sentimental here. He is sober. He knows suffering, yet he holds suffering and glory on the scales, and finds the weight of glory so surpassing, so stunning, that present affliction becomes light by comparison. The phrase, not worth comparing, employs emphatic negation. Paul wants us to feel the inadequacy of even placing present suffering in the same sentence as future glory. Charles Hodge rightly observes that Paul is not minimizing pain, but magnifying hope. Calvin notes that Paul speaks not as a Stoic, but as a man captivated by eternal joy. What awaits us so far outweighs what now burdens us that the two should never be weighed side by side. This is not escapism, it is eschatology. It does not call us to detach from pain, but to reinterpret it. For the believer, pain is not wasted. It is not punitive. It is preparatory. Every groan, every grief, is caught up into the sovereign hand of God, woven into the tapestry of glory yet to be unveiled. Second, creation's groaning is hopeful, verses 19 to 21. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Paul now broadens the lens. The suffering he speaks of is not limited to humanity, it is cosmic. The word translated eager longing, apokaridakia, is found only here and in Philippians 1 verse 20. It's a striking word, a compound of away, apo, head, kara, and watching, dokian. It conjures the image of someone craning their neck, straining their eyes toward the horizon in breathless anticipation. Creation is not indifferent. It is on tiptoe, leaning forward in hope. Why such longing? Paul explains, the creation was subjected to futility, metaiades. This word denotes not just vanity, but frustrating purposelessness, a world under curse, unable to achieve its intended end. Thielman reminds us this was not creation's own choice. Paul's grammar is clear. Creation was subjected, a divine passive, pointing to God's righteous judgment after Adam's fall. Genesis 3 verses 17 to 19. But Paul does not leave us in judgment. He adds with equal force, in hope. Even as God subjected creation to frustration, he did so pregnant with promise. The futility is not final. There is a divine in hope behind the curse. F. Bruce notes that creation's destiny is tied to humanity's. When the children of God are revealed in glory, the created order will be renewed in splendor. Creation is now enslaved to corruption. Thora, a word that carries the sense of decay, decomposition, and disorder. But it shall be set free, eleutheroi to set tie, not partially restored, but gloriously liberated. Paul's future passive verb anticipates the definitive intervention of God. And the goal? The freedom of the glory of the children of God. As John Murray insightfully observes, creation's hope hangs not on ecological reform or political revolution, but on the eschatological unveiling of God's sons in glory. Third, future glory is incomparable, verse 22. We know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. The groaning, sustenance, is not an isolated sigh. It is a collective, aching cry. Creation, personified as a mother in labor, groans not in death throes, but in birth pangs. The metaphor is crucial. Labor pains are sharp and exhausting, but they are filled with expectancy. Pain gives way to joy. Travail ends in triumph. This is not stoic endurance, but hopeful agony. The adverb, until now, acri to noon, marks time with theological purpose. The groaning has not ended, but it is leading somewhere. The whole created order, from crumbling stars to dying leaves, from seismic fault lines to aching bodies, is testifying to a glory not yet seen, but surely coming. C.B. Cranfield underscores that this groaning is the very evidence of the world's pregnant longing. It knows, in some sense, it was made for more. In a world bent under war, pandemics, pollution, famine, and flood, Paul dares to say, it is not death that is coming, it is birth. A new creation is laboring to be born. Reflections for today. First, consider what shapes your view of suffering. In a culture that prizes comfort and instant relief, suffering is often seen as a detour, an unwelcome interruption to the life we planned. But Paul invites us to see affliction not as failure or abandonment, but as the groaning of a world on the brink of rebirth. What if your sorrow is not senseless but sacred, woven into a story that ends not in despair, but in dazzling glory? Second, reflect on the way creation's groaning mirrors your own. We live in a world that aches. Earthquakes shatter cities, families fracture under pressure, bodies weaken, minds unravel, nations bleed. And within us, a quiet, personal groaning echoes the same cry, longing for healing, for justice, for wholeness. Have you ever paused to notice how your own longings harmonize with creation's song of waiting? What would change if you saw your personal ache as part of something cosmic, something holy? Third, ponder the contrast between the temporary and the eternal. Paul places the weight of glory and the weight of grief on opposite sides of the scale, and one so outweighs the other that it renders the comparison absurd. But we often reverse the balance, don't we? Trials loom large, eternity grows dim. What helps you remember that the story isn't over, that what's now groaning will one day sing? Fourth, listen for the hope that labors beneath the pain. Creation is not dying, it's giving birth. That's the metaphor Paul uses, and it reshapes everything. Groaning is not a sign that God is absent, but that new life is coming. What if every disappointment in your life carried the faint heartbeat of a future resurrection? What if waiting itself is part of the witness? Fifth, ask where your imagination is rooted. Do you live as though this world is your final home, or as though you're headed for a glory yet to be revealed? The imagination of faith doesn't deny suffering. It looks through it. It sees, even in the dark, the approaching dawn. What vision of the future shapes your present courage? Conclusion. This world groans, and so do we. But its groaning is not the sound of death throes. It is the cry of labor, the ache of anticipation, the prelude to glory. Paul doesn't ask us to minimize suffering. He invites us to place it on the scales of eternity, and then to watch it tip, utterly outweighed by the glory to come. Look around. Creation itself is leaning forward. It's craning its neck, longing for the day when God's children are revealed in splendor. And when that day breaks, the world will exhale. The scars of sin will vanish. The bondage of decay will give way to beauty. The whole creation will breathe again. So don't let your groaning define you. Let it deepen your longing. Let it awaken your imagination. Let it anchor your hope. Your sorrow is not wasted. Your trials are not meaningless. They are threads, tenderly woven by the Spirit, into the tapestry of a restored creation. And when that glory comes, it will not merely make up for your suffering. It will swallow it whole. It will flood your memory with light. It will turn every sigh into a song. Beloved, wait with groaning, yes, but wait with hope. Because the glory that is coming is not just greater. It is beyond compare. Amen.